we're going to record this. There we go. See? So feel free to come off mute if anybody wants to just stay off mute. Oh, I got a little bit of feedback there. Because we want it to be, we want it to flow, to be interactive. And I'd say just jump in anytime and ask some questions. Dan's here to help. So welcome, Dan. And congratulations on your new business.
Thank you very much.
Called Service Course Halton.
Yeah.
I'll let you talk at the end if you're anytime about the services that you're providing. Congratulations. And also I want to congratulate you on the ride that you did in 2016. I just wanted to ask myself, so Dan did a charity ride. He rode $5,000 to raise money for autism. So how many days did it take you to ride, Dan?
So it took 28 days from Vancouver to Hamilton.
Vancouver to Hamilton?
Amazing.
Yes.
Yeah. And is autism something that's close to you? For
one of my brothers, he was diagnosed with autism, but I also just worked at a place that had a lot of connections with Autism Speaks at the time. So they kind of helped me out and gave me the time off work and stuff like that to be able to take this trip across Canada.
Yeah. So
I would do something for myself, but also helping someone else.
Yeah. My son's autistic, so I appreciate all of the work you did. That's fantastic.
Oh, thank you very much.
And so how many kilometers would you have ridden a day?
So it varied between 160. I think my highest was 225.
And you didn't have a cold bath once?
No, I didn't. No. It was cold enough in some places. So
yeah.
Yes.
Good for you.
Thank you.
Okay, so thanks for joining us. And hi, Adam. Nice to see you too, or join us.
Hi, Nancy.
Hi, I miss you, Adam.
Oh, I miss you too, my dear.
So we have some questions for you, Dan, and we know that you're the one who can help us answer some of those questions. That's why I said anybody can jump in and ask some questions freely, but I think that I'm just going to go by experience now. So in terms of things that could happen to us injury-wise if we didn't have our bike set up properly. So whether you want to talk about some of the injuries that could occur or some of the things that we could feel. Hi, Sarah. If our bike wasn't fit to us properly. So I'll give an example. Somebody might go out and get a bike, or they might even buy a used bike. This is I'm going by personal experience. And they'll say, well, my husband like set up the seat for me and it fits pretty good. So I think I'm good to go. And then after a while, they might say after a few rides, they're wondering why their back hurts or like things like that. So I'm really trying to be proactive in terms of really avoiding injury. So what recommendations would you make?
Absolutely. So a bike fit really, it depends on the bike that you've got to start off, and it depends on what kind of racing you're doing. A road endurance bike cannot always work for a triathlon, just due to the front end not being far enough away, and then your knees not being over the pedals as nicely once you're in the aero extensions. Injuries that can occur, numb hands. I don't know if anyone has ever seen a cyclist riding along and someone shaking their hands out. That's just a key indication that the bike probably isn't fit properly for them and that they're reaching too far and putting too much pressure on their hands through their shoulders and using too much back muscles as well. That's actually called cyclist palsy, which is actually something that happens, and people can just get numb hands and then lose some movement and I guess use of their hands.
So what you're saying is instead of someone thinking that just buying a pair of gloves that have padding on it, they might think that that's a good solution, but you're saying
correct. Yeah, so that can help a little bit with vibrations if that's what's causing the numbness, because some people just have really sensitive hands. However, most of the time it's due to the bike not fitting properly.
Okay.
Other injuries that I have noticed a lot of people having is lower back, where they're bending too much, not being able to fit the bike properly due to their flexibility. So if you've got really poor flexibility, but you want to be really aerodynamic and really low down, the two don't really go together because your body is just not used to holding that position. Lower back can also cause tight hips, tight glute muscles. All those things can be due to being fit wrong on the bike.
Okay.
Another big thing is sore feet. So lots of us clip into the shoes and you're clipping in and you're pushing down those pedals for an hour, 2 hours, 5 hours, 6 hours. And it's a lot of pressure. If the feet don't fit, if the shoes don't fit, and then you have an insole, you've got the cleats, there's a lot of moving parts to your feet. And if they're not secure and tight in the shoe, it's going to cause lots of issues.
Okay, so back to numbness in my feet, because that happens to me, especially when you're riding for a longer duration of time. So what you're suggesting is my shoes are not fitting me properly.
Correct. So it could be either the shoe isn't the right size to your foot, which is, I guess, the easiest way to kind of see with your foot if your feet are touching the end, or if there's more than a centimeter at the end of the shoe between your toe and the end. It could be that you have a high insole, high arch on your foot. And most cycling shoes come with a really flimsy insole in them that should really be replaced. If you're wearing an orthotic in your running shoe or your everyday shoe, you should probably have an insole, like a custom insole in your cycling shoe.
That's very
Then
interesting.
the third part to it is the cleat position. So the cleat position needs to be underneath the ball of your foot. And if it's not, if it's too far back, it can be affecting the arch. And if it's too far forward, it can be using too many, toe muscles. And then just using that, and it's just going to make them numb.
Okay. So does anybody have any questions for Dan while we're on this subject line about your hands getting numb, your feet getting numb, you're having lower back issues?
Yeah. Nancy, it's Morrow. I've got a two-part question. Dan, I've always heard that there was a benefit of having a fitting at the beginning of the year, as well as later on in the year, after you've gotten accustomed to either spending some time on the bike or in that initial fitting. What's the benefit of that is my first one. And my second question is not necessarily numbness in the foot, but burning on the pad of the foot, the bottom pad of the foot. But like I said, that's well after a good 5 to 6 hours of biking. The pad of the bottom of my foot sometimes begins to burn a little bit. Same as, yeah, that's pretty well it. Okay, good. That's it.
Absolutely. So bike fits are not a one and done thing. You could do a bike fit last year. And then this year, once you've been doing all these strength exercises that we say we're going to do over the winter and working on the flexibility, that changes your fit completely. You can bend more, you can move more. You could have had an injury in your arm, and that can affect your fit as well. I recommend kind of getting a bike fit done yearly, especially if you're planning on racing throughout the year. I say it's always a good thing to do it kind of mid off season, really about now to February, depending on when you're racing. So that way you can get accustomed to the fit before you start racing, and then just kind of adapt to the fit. The second part to your numbing the foot, it's probably due to the insole or socks. Socks can also play a factor where there's just not enough padding on the sock. If you're wearing something really, really thin, that can also be a factor too.
Perfect. Thank you.
Anybody else have any questions on that subject line? Krista, I know you want to ask something.
Yeah, I mean, I again, this last year was my first year doing this. So I actually had to get a real bike, but it's still only $400, which to me, I thought was expensive Canadian Tire bike. So now I'm realizing that I've got to spend at least $1,000, but I got a good bike fit at Pyrrhix in Hamilton. And I still had all the same issues that I had before. So it's funny, I've been in the gym for a good 4 or 5 years now. And whenever I would do my my cycling on the stationary bike, I realize now my error that I was just doing the motions. I wasn't actually applying too much. What's the word I'm looking for? It was always at zero. Like it wasn't hard to pedal. And now I'm finding it's bitten me in the butt now that I'm actually cycling. And when I did my first triathlon, there were people, and I'm not trying to be mean here at all, but there were people who were passing me, which was basically everybody who should not have been passing me. And I don't understand what I was doing wrong. I did the gears properly. I had the bike fit. Is it me, or is it just my bike, or do you think it's both?
That's a good question. So she's actually referring even maybe to how can she get more power from the way her bike is.
Yeah. So getting more power on the bike. I'm guessing you're doing triathlon.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. So it really comes down to the whole fit, how the saddle's set up, for the height for your extension, being able to put enough power through the pedals. If your saddle is too low, then you're not actually extending enough and using all the muscles in your legs. Your fore aft, which is a saddle position back and forth, I guess, to put your knee over top of the spindle of the pedal, so you can apply force directly straight down. I don't know if you have any numbness or pain when you're sitting on the saddle, but the position of the saddle, like the angle, should be really just a couple degrees down. So that way, then you're not getting any numbness down there.
Okay.
I don't know if your run was affected by your bike at all, but the cleat position on your shoes can put a huge factor into your run once you get off the bike, actually, because on the bike, you don't really want to be using as much of your calf muscles as you might think. You actually want to be saving that for your run, because that's going to be a predominant muscle that you're using when you're running.
So use more quad.
You're going to be using more quad. And the way you do that is by moving your cleats further back on the shoe. So that way then you use more quad versus calf.
Well, this past year, I was too scared to get like the real bike shoes and clips in. So I was just using my running shoes. But that would also, from watching the other girls who are all, of course, fantastic at this, it looks like it would make a difference in my power by simply just being clipped in.
Yeah, you can push and pull with the shoes versus just being able to push down. Because when you pull up without being clipped in, you're losing all that power because you're not actually able to pull the pedal upwards.
Okay.
So you're actually only getting like half the pedal stroke worth of power.
So I'm working twice. I have to work twice as hard.
Twice as hard, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good to know. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, good. Anybody else have any questions for Dan? Megan?
Sure. Yeah, I have numb hands and I feel like I've moved myself all which way and also gotten gloves and I still have the tingly fingers. Are there like certain things in particular that I could look out for in my stance that would point towards why I have numb
She's
fingers?
talking about like it changing or something about your body position on your bike.
Yes, sorry.
That's what you're referring to, yeah.
And are you on a road bike or triathlon bike?
Road bike.
Road bike. So that could be a couple things. If you look down at your road bike, is any of your bar tape worn out or I guess discolored in the corners?
Yes.
Yes. So that right there kind of indicates that you're reaching too far. So with that, I would say bringing your stem in, putting a shorter stem on it to bring you closer to the bars.
Okay.
Yeah, because you're not actually like holding the bars properly, and then the bar is actually pushing down on like this part here, which can cause a lot of pain very quickly.
Okay, cool.
I think you should.
Yes, bike fit.
Yeah.
What'd you say, Nancy?
I think that you should look into that because now that I think about your bike, I think Dan is right. That would help if you had a shorter stem.
Yeah, cool. I will. Thank you.
And Dan, speaking to triathletes and being a triathlete yourself, again, another.
I'm not a triathlete, but
Okay,
anyway.
you've done it prep you. Okay.
Yeah.
But so I call you a triathlete, but I'm saying that there's lots of people that say, you know what? It's going to take my road bike and I'm going to slap some tri bars on there.
Yep.
And I go, oh! So give us your thoughts.
So a couple of things with that. If you're comfortable on your road bike without triathlon bars, the thing is you're reaching further past the handlebars if you put aero bars on it. With that being said, you probably need to put a much shorter stem on it to bring you closer to the aero bars, as well as the bike won't really handle as much because your saddle needs to change. It needs to come way forward to be able to accommodate for you to be able to bend that way. A road bike and a triathlon bike have a different seat angle too, which can make a big factor into your position on the bike. If you just throw the aero bars on.
So by just getting just having your road bike and slapping your tri bars on yourself and think that you're good to go, you could cause more injuries to your body.
Absolutely. So all the injuries that I had listed previously, like they can definitely happen, as well as just poor bike handling and not being able to hold the aero position for a long period of time. That there is kind of an injury to, I guess, your goals and injury to your time overall in a triathlon. If you're not holding the aero position, if you keep breaking it, you're just going to lose a lot of time in aerodynamics, I guess. Also for comfort as well.
Yeah, definitely.
So if I were to buy a new bike right now,
Yeah.
not that I expect, without winning the lottery, what type of bike should I go for? I've been told to get a road bike, but should I really be getting a triathlon bike?
What distance triathlon are you doing?
Oh, I'm going to be doing sprint this year.
Sprints? Yeah, road bike is totally fine.
Okay.
Road bike is great. You can almost be as aerodynamic on a road bike riding in the drop handlebars, like at the bottom, than as in aero bars.
Oh, okay.
Like the difference you're going to be is seconds. It's not going to make a massive difference. And for a sprint, I think it's 30 kilometer ride.
For sprint, it's 20.
20, yeah. So for 20K, it's not going to make a difference if you're on aero bars versus on a road bike.
Okay, thank you.
Michelle, you're fairly new to the sport, and you're ready to learn more. So what's your question for Dan?
Actually, hi Dan. My question was kind of already answered. It was about my hands being numb on my bike, and I always feel that I am reaching too far. So I think it was Megan that asked about the numbing of the hands, and you said it would be good to bring the stem in or get a shorter stem.
Yep.
So that could all just be done by, going in for a fitting, right? Because I've never had a proper fitting for my bike.
Yeah, Michelle got a really sweet used bike, and it fits you, but it just needs to be some tweaked.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that was good. And also I was thinking too about getting the aero bars for my bike. So that was also really good to learn that that might not be the best option for me. So
if you're just starting out, you would probably be better on just your road bike by itself than on the aero bars. And then once you get more comfortable on the bike and get better at handling and turning and all those sort of things, then add the aero bars into it afterwards.
Okay, yeah, that makes total sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thank you.
Sarah, did I miss asking Dan any questions?
I don't think so. I mean, I was kind of just wanting to know about you spoke about it already, was just with respect to the cleat.
Yeah.
And on the shoe, because I think sometimes I get some numbness, but I find I had to play around with it. If I wear no socks and just the shoe, because I have the vents in the shoe, my feet don't get numb. I wear the socks and then my feet get numb. Or the other thing is, I think too, I had worn out the cleat a bit on my other pair in the summer. Yep. And so once I changed the cleat, I was able to clip in and out. So you kind of answered the questions there that I had anyway. Thank you.
Wonderful.
And it's surprising about socks, because I just discovered that this summer when I talked to a girl that was training for Ironman, they almost had her doing all kinds of physio treatment. And then someone said, well, let's stop for a second. What's the thickness of your sock? And it just made a world of difference. So yeah.
So if you wear too thick of a sock, then your foot can be moving around too much in the shoe. And if you wear too thin, then you're not having any of that comfort. Just like a running sock. There's so much technology in those now. It's the same as in cycling socks.
Yeah.
What would you say the replacement time for a shoe is? Like, on running shoes, they'll say like, okay, 500 miles or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm just pulling numbers out of the sky here, by the way.
Yeah.
Is there any recommended, number or years to change a cycling shoe?
Yeah.
Not as much as I've heard it, to be honest. It's more when they just start to wear out. They're depending on what kind of shoe, like there is carbon shoes and like there's polymer bases as well. When they start getting really flexy, and if you can kind of like bend the shoe, it's probably time to wear it out. It takes quite a while to wear out the carbon on them though. The cleats, I personally change them twice a year on my road shoes, just because I ride quite a lot. And honestly, I walk into cafes a lot in them and wear them out. But then also insoles as well. Make sure your insole is correct and they're not worn out. That's another big thing, especially for Ironmen that are on the bike for such a long time, on the trainer for a long time. They wear out pretty quick.
Okay.
So like Superfeet, Boot Dock, there's quite a lot of different ones out there for custom insoles, or maybe not even a full custom, but just like a partial custom that is right for your foot. So either a low arch, mid arch, or high arch.
Okay. Thank you.
Adam, how about you? Do you have any questions for Dan?
Would you say that there's a definitive difference between round bars versus flat top bars?
For on a road bike?
Road or tri, but I know most tris come with flat now.
They are, yeah.
Road bike.
There is marginal gains for a flat one for aerodynamics, technically, in a very controlled environment. But for comfort, I personally like a round one for comfort, unless you have really big hands, because the wide ones are very wide, and they're quite, I guess, like the distance between here and here. I guess it just depends on your hand. If you can wrap your hand around and it feels comfortable, great. But most of the time, most people prefer a round bar.
Okay.
Especially if they're riding on the tops, then round bar is probably better.
Right. Okay.
So Dan, tell us a little bit more about what would happen if, like, how extensive is the service that you would provide in terms of when we needed our bike fitted?
Yeah, so I do everything from race prep to general tune-ups to bike fittings, absolutely anything you need, and it's all mobile. So I come right to your house, either pick up your bike or do the service right there. And yeah, anything on a bike I can take care of. Nice. Yes.
That's very nice.
We are host. I know. I think it was Kristen or Kirsten who mentioned about wanting to learn some of these things about changing a flat and all these basic adjustments. Yes. We are hosting a 3-day clinic at the Milton Velodrome on Wednesdays in February, where you can learn all those things, as well as traveling with your bike, because lots of triathletes do that, and putting it back together when you get to your destination. And there's a lot more information on that in those classes.
And just I'll add to that not only is the velodrome like an amazing facility, but you can multitask and go see Dan and then get your workout done on the track.
Exactly. Yes, the track is wonderful. They
have like a walking running track.
They do, yes. Right at the top there's a running track. I think it's 250 or 300 meters.
There you go. See?
Yeah.
300 meters.
300, yeah.
And it's $5 for just a drop in.
Yeah, I know. It's amazing.
And it's hot. So if you're training for somewhere hot, then it's perfect.
Okay, so does anybody else have any questions for Dan? Because we set the webinar up for 30 minutes, so we don't take up we've been able to answer a lot of questions. Dan's been able to answer a lot of questions and give some great information. But last chance, Catherine, you haven't asked us anything.
Okay,
Teacher,
so
he has to ask something.
Dan or Adam maybe. So my bike's creaking on the trainer a little bit.
Yeah.
So what do I need to fix? Like it wasn't doing that before. It's just started creaking in the. So
was it creaking on the road beforehand?
No.
No, it's probably the way the bike is attached to the trainer.
Yeah.
Or maybe
Take it
your
off and-
shoes, possibly. If you've got a second pair of shoes, try a different pair of shoes, because the pedals can also be creaking, like the cleats on the bottom of your shoe.
No, it's the back. It's at the back, so it's
It's at the back. Oh, okay, yeah. Maybe the trainer itself, just something's loose or not.
Just makes undo it and do it back up again. Kind of
yeah.
Okay.
I had that issue last year, Catherine, and I just had to replace the skewer.
Oh yeah, that could be. I've had skewer for a couple
So I
years.
had that too. And I actually just took the bike off the trainer, put the back wheel back on and cleaned the chain. And that seemed to fix the problem.
Yeah, so yeah, I'll check the skewer and I'll undo it and take off, put it back on. Okay,
And
thanks, guys.
one other thing is the dropout hanger, the derailleur hanger.
Yes.
Could have some loose bolts.
Okay, I will check all those things.
Dan, it's Morrill. Maybe a couple of pointers for the group here that I think would be beneficial, especially if they're in the market for a used bike. And the only reason I'm bringing this up is because going through bikes myself over the last few years, more than few years, 10 years, I've now, when I approach to purchase a used bike, making sure that I don't get, I'm going to say burned, making sure that the seat stems are not cut, especially, the steering stems are not cut, things like that. You know, what other kind of pointers would you have for people going to look at a used bike, and what should they be looking for?
So my big number one thing when buying a used bike is check the shifters and the brake handles if there's any scratches on it. If there is, then it's probably being crashed. To be honest, a lot of triathlon bikes get crashed, where just people don't know how to ride them or they're not fit properly. So always check the brake levers if there's any scratches on them, as well as the derailleur on the back, because that's going to be one of the first things that hits the ground.
All those things are scratched on my. Yes, you're saying all those things when I crash.
That's because you throw your bike in and out of your car, Catherine. That's
no.
So other things is just looking at the bike in general, just to see if the any parts look worn out. You can buy a chain checker as well. However, chains is something that's going to be replaced anyways. So even if you buy a bike that's worn out, it's not the end of the world. Checking over the frame to make sure there's no big paint chips or scratches, things like that is the most important.
Yep. Okay, last chance for any questions, and we're gonna wrap things up here.
I have a quick question, Nancy. It's Michelle. So Daniel, when riding on your road bike on your trainer, is it recommended? I think I know the answer to this, but is it recommended to always use a trainer tire, or is that something you can kind of get away with? Like I usually only ride my bike once a week with Nancy throughout the winter. So is it necessary to have a separate training tire?
Honestly, yes. It is great to get one. Your trainer tire will last you years. They wear out very, very slowly. And if you're not going to ride your bike outside throughout the winter, it's best to get it changed in the late fall, early winter, and then take it off in the spring again. The problem is when you put your bike outside again, there's going to be so much rubber gone from your tire that you're going to get flats really easily. The bike's not going to handle well because it's going to become a square on the back. And so when you try and turn, it's almost like it's going over a ridge, and it's like, it's a square, it's a sharp corner versus a nice round side. So it can also cause issues with you having accidents and stuff like that. But definitely you're going to have flats because things will just puncture through the rubber much quicker than when it has that much more rubber.
Okay.
Great question, Michelle. Thank you for asking that.
Okay, no, that's
A
good
lot
to
of
know.
people don't change it over, and Dan's explained it very well.
Yeah.
And you wonder why you get a flat the first few rides.
If you look at the tire and you start seeing some like threads in the tire, it's probably worn out.
Okay, all right,
Mhm.
thank you.
Not to mention you get to practice changing a tire twice a year.
Yeah,
Exactly.
there you go.
I need to learn how to do that, yes.
YouTube, YouTube.
Always get the professionals to do
Maybe
the trainer
that's,
test.
maybe
Not worth
that's
my
Yeah.
effort.
discussion.
No. Yeah.
Not worth
Don't
my
set
effort.
yourself up for an ego kick when you try to put the trainer tire on, because they are hard.
Hard to do, yeah.
Yeah, you're right. You're right, Adam.
I drop mine off on the way to work and I pick it up on the way home.
Yeah.
Okay, well, if that's it for everybody, then thanks so much, Dan. And
No
if you can, I'll send out this recorded file in a YouTube format, and I'll include how anyone can contact Dan if they have any questions. You know, after you get off and you're like, oh shoot, I forgot to ask that one.
Yeah, so you can find us on Facebook or Instagram, and either my wife or I will respond very quickly. Or you can email us as well, and Nancy will send out that email with also the dates for our clinic that we're
Yeah, for the
hosting,
clinic, yeah.
as well as any other information about my business.
Yeah, perfect.
Perfect. Great. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you so much. This has been really
No
helpful.
problem. Thank you
Yes.
very much for having me.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Bye.
Good night.
Thanks.
Bye.
Thanks so much.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.